What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Wednesday. Hope everybody is off to a great start to their day. Austin Stanley, Zach Bingham here to talk about the Titans' newest tight end, Austin Hooper, and what he has to do on the field this upcoming season to be an overwhelming success when it comes to a one-year free agent deal with the Tennessee Titans, where he signed for $6 million. So we'll talk about Austin Hooper a lot. And Zach has two tight end comps that Austin Hooper needs to have or can be comp to of what he can do on the football field when it comes to his statistical production. And then we'll ask you guys to get involved. And that is, what is the stats that Austin Hooper needs to have this season for the Titans? So what does Austin Hooper's Titan stat line need to be this season? Then we'll get to Zach's comps. Then Cooper Kupp, the Super Bowl MVP, wrote a open letter to Robert Woods, a.k.a. Bobby Trees, and had a lot of really good things to say about the Titans' new wide receiver who they've traded for. That trade not yet official. So there is some updates on that and what that means for the Titans cap situation. And there is some new information about a contract the Titans have restructured this morning to save them a really big chunk of change in this salary cap offseason. So Zach, welcome in. It is Wednesday, so we will throw shade at the end of the show. I've been prepared for this shade since Saturday night. So let's get this thing rolling.
So my shade, and I've got to preface my shade because very excited about my shade. I even asked what Austin's shade was, and I never asked. And he didn't tell me. He just told me what genre it was. But we are all going to go to marketing school at the end of this period, at the end of this class. And I hope Vanderbilt is listening because this is logo creation 101. I've got a slideshow presentation that I will show Vanderbilt University, VU, not UV, VU, on how to do things because they are so like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
They're the dumbest smart school in the country.
When it comes to athletics,
yes.
Like everything surrounding athletics, athletic directing of athletics, football, basketball. They are good at men's baseball. They are good at women's bowling, very good at women's bowling. But when it comes to marketing and making money, instead of just collecting the $50+ million check every single year from the SEC, they suck. So, I don't know if they're going to change, but we are going to go to school and we are going to inform Vanderbilt on how to do things in the logo creation area. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We will tweet out the YouTube link and also subscribe to our YouTube. We got a lot of things to talk about today until I think maybe one of the best nicknames in football, in life, and that is Bobby Trees, which is Robert Woods, that I learned. I had no idea that was the case. And we've got a lot to discuss. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell for live notifications, and on Facebook. What's going on Facebook? Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this hump day, on this shade day. I am ready when you are.
Yep, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. Make sure you download that. Use our code ATOZ Sports. But I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media, as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Hit us up and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for our show, and they help out you guys. Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process by seeing them in Lebanon or going to wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better coverage, better service, better rates. Learn more about a plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And a quick updated note on the Bone and Joint Institute. I mentioned we would have a Doc Talk segment on Thursday. It will not be about Derrick Henry. We will reschedule that for his rehab coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. But tomorrow's Doc Talk at noon will be about Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, and the ACL recovery that he is on. So we'll talk to Dave Kempfert, the lead physical therapist there at the Bone and Joint Institute, about Bobby Trees and his knee coming up tomorrow at noon Central Time. So get ready for that. But we'll talk about Bobby Trees and what Cooper Kupp said about him, about being his teammate for 5 years, second here on the show today. But we're going to talk about Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper, a 1-year deal with the Titans for $6 million, a great value here for the Titans. But Zach, how are you feeling about this overall?
Well, I go back to the start of our conversations when it comes to the tight end position. We knew that the Titans needed to address the tight end position. We had, it was tough last year watching Ferguson, watching Swain, and Michael Pruitt gave them good minutes, but then had a terrible injury at the end. But Michael Pruitt is not a number one tight end. Definitely Jeff Swain is not a number one tight end. And we learned very quickly that Anthony Ferguson cannot, will not, and could not be a number one tight end in this league. So they had to go address that position. I'd like the re-signing of Swain. Blocking tight end, he gave you good value. He caught some touchdowns. He was asked to probably do more receiving than usual because they didn't have a receiving tight end that was worth a damn. And we looked at the market, Austin, and, I shoot for the stars. My expectations, I go all the way to the top, and I was down with the sickness. I was done with COVID. I was on to my new virus, the sickness. Mike Gesicki. I loved that guy, but so did the Miami Dolphins, and they franchise tagged him. We talked about Dalton Schultz. What do you know? The Cowboys kept him. The guy that you mentioned from Conklin from Vikings? Oh, Minnesota liked him. So the 3 tight end targets that I think we were tossing around paying 10 plus, maybe 12 plus $1 million or around there at the top tier of the tight end, they were all kept and retained by their team, which tells us, Austin, that we were smart in the sense of we targeted those guys and their team wanted to keep them, right? So then the market kind of shed. Tom Brady came back, so the Rob Gronkowski dreams, which I never really thought he was going to come to the Titans anyway, that really kind of got dashed. And then I believe that the Titans got a gift from the man above. The second Austin Hooper got released or was reported to be released by the Cleveland Browns, I don't usually go to Twitter, but because I hate Twitter and I hate trolls and I hate the basis of people on Twitter. I understand the use of Twitter. But I actually used that platform and I said, the Titans have got to go after Austin Hooper. And 2 reasons. I thought that the tight end market was dwindling and they had a position that was no good. We talked about the tight end position in the draft where you were going to have to seek value in the 3rd and 4th rounds more so than the 1st and 2nd. And I didn't think that they could take a chance on that. And lastly, I thought that you could get him for a good clip. A 1-year, $6 million deal is perfect. It's a prove-it deal. It is a team-friendly deal. You paid half of what you thought you were going to have to pay at the high tier of the tight end market. And you got, I think, a quality tight end, pass catching, and Austin, dual threat. You wanted him to be a blocker, even though you were kept on saying the sickness was too sick to block, even though they weren't asking him to. Hooper can.
Well,
and
Hooper,
so I liked this.
Hooper can block. He's much better at blocking than Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki had one of the worst tight end blocking grades on Pro Football Focus, where Austin Hooper doesn't have a great grade by any means, but for pass catching guys, Austin Hooper had a better grade this past year run blocking than Jonnu Smith did with the Titans 2 years ago, which is promising. And Austin Hooper does not commit penalties in the run blocking game as well. He only had 1 penalty on nearly 300 run blocking snaps last season. So they ask him to do it, and he's very adequate, if not above average, at run blocking too. So, and by the way, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Apparently YouTube is working for some, not others. YouTube's working fine for me. But if you can hear me on YouTube saying this, then it's working fine for you guys. But I've been messaging some with the YouTube chat for those who are not having success with YouTube this morning about that. So with Austin Hooper, it's a great deal, right? Now, you want Austin Hooper to be more productive than the two guys who won't be back with the Titans at tight end, and Michael Pruitt, who I thought had a great start to the year, and then it didn't work, or he broke his leg, and then it kind of tapered off even before then as well. And then Anthony Firkser, a big, massive disappointment overall there. So what can Austin Hooper put up? What type of production can he have with this Titans offense this upcoming season? So let's go ahead and ask everybody what Austin Hooper's stat line needs to be. What does Austin Hooper's Titans stat line need to be this season? What does Austin Hooper's stat line need to be this season? But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute. boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, know who to go to, know who to trust. boneandjointtn.org. They've got over a dozen doctors there who specialize in any type of joint injury you could possibly have. And if you do get hurt and you need rehab, maybe you don't need surgery, maybe you need both surgery and rehab, state-of-the-art rehab facility there at the Bone and Joint Institute. And we also have Dave Kimfort coming on with us tomorrow at noon for a Doc Talk segment talking about Robert Woods and his ACL recovery and what that timeline could be like for the Titans coming into the 2022 season. So get ready for that Doc Talk tomorrow at noon, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports were powered by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today. They got you hooked up, and we've got you hooked up with a special promo code ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200, no spaces, ATOZ200. $10 money line wager will win you $200 if either NBA team hits a three-pointer tonight. Bet on a game, money line wager, $10. You can win $200 for new users. That's a great deal. It's money in your pocket. It's betting money. You can cash out. You can do whatever you want. Right there, promo code ATOZ200. That is for new users today. Cannot beat that. That's BetMGM.
Yeah. So we asked the question, what does Austin Hooper's stat line need to be for the Titans this upcoming season? Now, I see some reasonable ones, and I see some ones who are not being reasonable. So Jared, I think, is reasonable. 50 catches, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, right? Chris Stress says 50 for 706 touchdowns. I think that's more unreasonable. Scott says 60 catches, 5 touchdowns. Chris says 550 yards, 5 touchdowns, 9 yards per catch or more. Brent says 50 to 60 for 400 to 500 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. I think that's a fair ballpark to be in from yards and touchdowns. Tim says he needs to have around 80 catches and 800 yards with 8 touchdowns. Tim is just airing the ball out, baby, because if Austin Hooper has 80 catches for 800 yards, then what's A.J. Brown and Bobby Trees doing this year? 88 touchdowns, 500 yards from Roy. BK Titan says 55 catches, 5 touchdowns, 500 for 6 touchdowns coming from Steven. Ethan says the bar is so low for him to be a success because of last year. So let's look at what last year was for both Austin Hooper and for the Titans tight ends who are not going to be back. Last year, Austin Hooper had, if I get to my right sheet here, Austin Hooper had 38 catches for 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. That does not seem like a lot, but Austin Hooper was kind of splitting tight end time with David Njoku. And then also they had the Browns had a third tight end who had decent production. So the Browns had 3 tight ends with more production than the Titans' 3 tight ends. But Austin Hooper had 38 catches for 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. Anthony Firkser and Michael Pruitt combined for 436 yards and 5 touchdowns. So what should we expect from Austin Hooper? I think Austin Hooper should be able to produce like Firkser and Pruitt combined. That is what he needs to have in this offense. I think 430 to 450 yards, just south of 500 yards. And if he can get to 5 touchdowns, I think that's exactly what the Titans are looking for from the tight end position, knowing that this guy can be a number 1 tight end on the field, a lot of snaps, helping you block in the run game and catching passes and converting first downs and helping you convert in the red zone for touchdowns as well. So my stat line for Austin Hooper, around 450 yards, 5 touchdowns, outproduced the combo of Ferkser and Pruitt combined.
All right, Austin, I have gone deep into my research because I wanted Austin Hooper on the Titans. I received that, and I think I have the perfect stat line. I'm going a deep dive compared to what he did last year, the chip on his shoulder. I think trying to be realistic is key. And I looked at the tight ends and I compared them to the majority of pass catching tight ends last year. And this is what I came up with. So I'm going to split the difference between these two tight ends to kind of get right in the honey hole of where I think Austin Hooper should be. So let's go to the stat sheet.
Okay.
Here are the tight ends. And look, I'm not comparing him to Dawson Knox or Rob Gronkowski, who had 800 plus yards receiving. That's not the type of tight end that he's going to be. And I don't think that's the type of tight end that the Titans will utilize him as. But I could envision this. I think the two best comps for Austin Hooper come in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Well, now you sit there and Cincinnati's tight end Uzma has gotten traded Uzama, has gotten signed with the Jets. But look at this stat line. If you look at Pittsburgh's Freiermuth, 60 catches on 79 targets for 497 yards and 7 touchdowns. That, I think, is a high clip, and we saw Big Ben. I mean, he utilized Freiermuth quite a bit. I actually won some prop bets on him with receptions because he was dumping down because it was later in his career. Look at who they're between, though. Old Hawkeye, your boy, Jared Cook, an oldie but a goodie, Tyler Higbee, and Noah Fant. The reason why I can't comp them is because there's too many targets. I don't believe that Hooper is going to be targeted that many times. I don't think he's going to be targeted 90 times. Right?
No, there's not enough football to go around because Derrick Henry's still going to get a bunch of volume. You look at A.J. Brown and Robert Woods, once he is healthy, going to get more volume. So why did I come up with the number that I had of 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is outproducing the combo of Ferkser and Pruitt combined, is because what did Jonnu Smith do in 2020 when he was tight end 1? He was out there on nearly every snap, playing a high percentage of the offensive snaps. And you had A.J. Brown, who was over 1,000, and Corey Davis, who was close to 1,000. So and Derrick Henry, who was a 2,000-yard rusher. So a lot of volume to 3 other guys, and your tight end was that 4th piece when it came to the volume of touches. Jonnu Smith that year had 448 yards and 8 touchdowns. So if Austin Hooper can beat Jonnu Smith from 2 years ago, then that's exactly what you're looking for because of how this offense is set up. And why do I think it's reasonable? Because look at what the Browns are. The Browns offense is Nick Chubb first, just like the Titans offense is Derrick Henry first. Now the Browns had a weird situation at wide receiver last year where Donovan Peoples-Jones was the number 1 wideout who produced. But I think with AJ, Woods, and then Hooper, that sets up nicely for if he surpasses 500 yards, then he's crazy producing. It's just what's the opportunity that the number 1 tight end has in the passing game?
So
not that high in my
I said Freiermuth and Uzama. Uzama, that and look at the targets, 63 targets because Joe Burrow was too busy throwing to Jamar Chase.
Right.
5 touchdowns, not 7 like Freiermuth, but had a higher yards per catch and 63 targets with 49 receptions. So this is where I'm going to split the difference. I think if Austin Hooper, this is my stat line. I'm going to be very specific. I think you're a little low on your yards and a little low on your touchdowns because I think Hooper will get more opportunity in the red zone.
Okay.
I'm going to split the difference. 55 catches off of 74 targets for 495 yards and 6 touchdowns. If you see what I did, I literally split Freiermuth and Uzama right down the middle on all of the categories. And if he averages 9.3 yards per catch, ooh, baby, that is your ideal tight end on a 1-year deal for $6 million. You've caught 6 touchdowns, which I think that he can catch, because look what Tannehill did last year at the tight end position in the red zone. He threw multiple touchdowns to all 3 of his tight ends. He's going to target Swaim left or less. He's going to be blocking more, right? Hooper's going to be going out for routes. So I think this is right under 500 yards. If you get any more, if you get over 500, that's just gravy on top. I think 6 touchdowns should be the bar. Hooper showed in Atlanta he can catch touchdowns. I think he can show in Tennessee he can catch touchdowns, and with more targets, because that's kind of my number. If you're targeted 74 times, that's huge over the course of a 17-game season. And Tannehill likes the tight end position when he can rely on the tight end position.
Yeah, I just think it's tough because how many targets for Hooper you're saying?
74. It aligns. It's the perfect number. 55 receptions off of 74 targets.
All right, if Hooper has 74 targets, how many targets does A.J. Brown have?
Well, that depends on your boy Todd Downing and how he wants to use A.J. Brown this year.
Answer the question. If Austin Hooper has 74 targets, how many targets should A.J. Brown have?
A.J. Brown had over 100 last year. He should have 120.
120. Okay. So how many targets should Robert Woods have?
Number 2 wide receiver, 70 to 80, probably 70.
So less, you're saying Hooper has more targets than Robert Woods?
I don't know. Again, Robert Woods, I got to find out more about Robert Woods. We haven't.
Sure, maybe
we got to know about Bobby Trees. I think Robert Woods is a great number 2 wide receiver. And here's the other caveat, Austin, that make it difficult to answer your questions. I don't know who they're going to draft possibly in the first round as a wide receiver, right? Like that could also change the whole state of things. Working with what they have now, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense with the targets. I do think that they'll throw the football more.
That was my next question. If Austin Hooper has 74 targets, Robert Woods has 80 targets, and A.J. Brown has 120, then how many carries does Derrick Henry have? Right? Because you're like, I mean, yes, you want more offensive snaps because you want to possess the ball longer. You want to convert third downs, to stay on the field, all that stuff, to create more offensive plays, to give the ball to these guys more often. But at some point, you're taking away from others. Now, sure, do you want to take away from Nick Westbrook-Akine's targets? Absolutely. Do you want to? But I mean, what you just said is a great point. Is who do they draft at the wide receiver that can replace NWI there? Are they going to take away some of Chester Rogers' 43 targets? I freaking hope so. Because when you look at Anthony Ferkser last year and Michael Pruitt, they only combined, quick math tells me, they only combined for 61 targets. So those 2 tight ends, 61 targets, which is exactly what Jonnu Smith did 2 years ago. So I think Austin Hooper is an under 70 target type of guy because what the Titans offense will continue to be. And if anybody else is going to get more targets this year, it's A.J. Brown by a lot. That's where I think the focus is going to go. I still think Austin Hooper is the 4th option in this offense, which is a good thing.
No. Option is like including Derrick Henry?
Yes.
Here's the deal. The one caveat in this whole conversation is if Tannehill finds a rapport with Hooper in training camp, it's over. Look at what Matthew Stafford did with Higbee this year. He gained trust. Tannehill never had trust with any of his tight ends throwing the football all season long. I think that makes a big difference. And Austin, I know you're comparing a couple of years ago, but here is the difference. Ryan Tannehill threw a ton more attempts last year because he didn't have Derrick Henry, but was much less efficient with his numbers. He threw 481 times in Derrick Henry's 2,000-yard season. Last year, he threw 531.
Yeah.
That's quick math. That's 50 more times. He had 100 less yards throwing, right? So it all matters. And it goes back to the centerpiece of this offense, which is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry will lead this offense the way that it goes. Ryan Tannehill will be more like 2020 if Derrick Henry is more like 2020. Ryan Tannehill will be more like 2021 if Derrick Henry is not available like he was in 2021. It's just the facts. It's the same thing that what I was talking about Matt Ryan yesterday. Matt Ryan goes to Indianapolis, and Jonathan Taylor is going to help that man tremendously because they had a wide receiver in the backfield in Atlanta, and you can't do diddly poo with that. So Derrick Henry's the catalyst. He will go how the offense goes. I'm not saying anything that everybody doesn't know, but I think Cooper will get more targets because I believe Derrick Henry will be a lot better because he'll be on the field.
Yeah. All right. A to Z Sports here live on this Wednesday. We might get the shade, abbreviated shade early because Danny Howe on Facebook has come after us, Zach. And I love the chat who have come to our defense. But here we go. Are you ready for Danny Howe's comment, Zach? And then we'll get to Robert Woods. I promise we'll talk about Robert Woods. We'll not spend too much time on Danny
Am
Howe.
I going to have to destroy somebody today?
Yeah, probably. But the chat has also destroyed him for us. So Danny says Nashville has officially gone to crap. Two bleep sportscasters trying to get out of earning an honest living by sitting on their asses spewing nonsense. Get an F King job, you useless twits. What do you think? No one cares about what you think. So Danny there is going after Zach and I there. And then I see Roy saying, shut your mouth, bum. Nate says, nobody cares what you think, Snowflake. Ethan Ramsey says they cover like 12 cities now. I think they're pretty successful. And Demetrius says, you need a hug, man. So Danny Howe, Zach, I will let you go with Danny Howe and his sweet crotch rocket that he's got his profile picture. So Zach, I will let you take your shot at Danny now.
Oh, wow. Well, you just actually set me up right on a tee. Danny boy. Hello, Danny. Welcome to the show. Danny, what the hell are you talking about? And Austin, you said it perfectly. Look at this man's profile picture. This man just has one crotch rocket, a motorcycle. That's all he has. That's the only substances he's bringing to the table. You have no facts. What are you doing here? Oh, Danny boy, Danny, big motorbike guy, loves the motorbike, kills the motorbike. What does Danny look like? Oh, maybe that's his face sitting on the back of that motorbike. I'm going to start calling it a motorbike because you don't deserve to make it call a motorcycle. That's the disrespect that you are doing to your own profile picture by just having that. So get lost, bud. I mean, you don't matter in the scheme of things. At least tell us why we suck. Don't just tell us that we suck. Because if you tell us why, I'll listen to you. I'll give you your time of the day, and then I'll send your ass to the Green Mile and destroy you, execute you verbally. It's going to be great. So, Danny, bring the heat. Come on, pal. I want to hear it. Danny Crotch Rocket. That's what we're going to call you from now on. Old Danny Crotch Rocket.
Yeah, Danny Whitson says, love when a Danny gets blasted and it's not him. There you go. And so, I don't want to get into numbers and everything and analytics, but I'm just going to say this. Business pretty good. Like things are going
that
well.
Doesn't even matter. It's about Danny. It's not about us. Again, he's got to call us out on something that we suck at if we do. Yeah. But Danny probably has left old Danny Crotch Rocket has left the chat.
Yeah. Oh, so look, I mean, my point is, get a real job is what Danny told us to do. Well, business is doing just fine. And I'll tell Danny that where Danny, our job's going to set us up to be not having to do jobs later on in life. So that's what I feel like. All right, back to the regular scheduled program as we talk about Bobby Trees So we spent a lot of time on Austin Hooper.
Oh,
I
no,
think
man,
Zach's
we're gonna have. You know what? We should change the later in the show. I have a new question that we'll ask. Go ahead.
Okay, that sounds great. So I think Zach's projection for Hooper is a little high, but that's okay. I'm intrigued to see what Austin Hooper can do. But we go from Hooper to Cooper because Cooper Cup just put out an Instagram post yesterday about new Titans wide receiver Robert Woods that I think is pretty impressive. And so we'll show you the Instagram post about Robert Woods that Cooper Cup posted. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau health plans, and maybe you can help out Danny Boy.
Yeah, I can. Danny, listen up. I'm here to help. I'm gonna. This is the easiest way for me to do it. I'm gonna pull you down. I'm gonna bring you all the way down to the bottom, and then I'm gonna lift you up, and I'm gonna kill you with kindness, and I'm gonna give you the best health plan that you can ever think. And you need a health plan riding those crotch rockets because you don't know what's gonna happen on the streets. I know what will happen on the streets when I'm dominating with my Hyundai. I don't know what's going to happen while you're zooming around in your crotch rocket. I do know what's going to happen if you do have Farm Bureau health plans, and that is you're going to have better coverage, better rates, and better service. Over 200 plus locations, including Nashville. If you live in Nashville, if you live in Knoxville, if you live in Memphis, if you live in Cookwoodville, and everywhere in between, better coverage, better rates, better service. FBHP.com/ATOZ. That's A to Z. FBHP.com/A to Z, Farm Bureau Health Plans. This one is for Danny.
There you go. Don't forget, Danny, download the BetMGM app and you can use our code ATOZ Sports 200, or excuse me, ATOZ 200. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with ATOZ Sports. But ATOZ 200, all you got to do is place a $10 moneyline wager on any NBA game tonight, and that will win you $200. When either team hits a three, there's going to be like 23s hit in whatever game you bet on tonight. So a $10 moneyline wager wins you $200 when either team hits a three in the NBA tonight. So that's for new users there with the code ATOZ200. All right, Bobby Tree is getting a lot of love from his former teammate Cooper Kupp. So here is what Cooper Kupp posted on Instagram yesterday. There aren't any words that will do Robert Woods the justice he deserves for what he has meant to me over these last 5 years. The standard for what it means to be a pro about your craft. The standard for the sacrifice required to elevate the people around you to be their best. The standard in walking the walk. There's no doubt in my mind the incredible impact he's had on the transformation of the LA Rams for the better. Success is found in the mud, and the only way to affect positive change is by getting your hands dirty. I've appreciated his respect for this and his willingness to get his hands in the dirt so he can leave his fingerprints on this organization. The culture that we live by, the attitude we take to the field, the mentality in which we prepare, all molded and shaped thanks to Bobby Trees. I mean, that's like everything about a football team that you're looking to build there. Cooper Kupp could not have said something more positive about Robert Woods than that statement right there, Zach. It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, the culture, the way they prepare, the way they help and support another, like it's pretty incredible at all the words that Cooper Kupp put together for Bobby Trees there.
So I knew about Robert Woods and his relationship with Cooper Kupp prior to my prediction on Friday. I knew the type of person that Robert Woods, based on reading articles and some of the information that I knew. That's why I targeted and said what I said on Friday, that they should go sign Austin Hooper and trade for Robert Woods. Robert Woods fits the mold of what John Robinson and Mike Vrabel want. Tough, smart, physical, leadership. I mean, all the things that loves ball. I mean, and you talk about loves football. Robert Woods had to put his ego aside, wanting to win a Super Bowl for the last several years, and then tearing his ACL and taking a back seat to Odell Beckham Jr., who is the highlight reel and the star of the show and the egomaniac. And hey, I want Instagram likes more than anybody else. But you know what? Robert Woods did that in stride, and he helped. I believe this. Robert Woods was one of the reasons why Cooper Kupp started to elevate his game the way that he did. Obviously, Matthew Stafford helped. Obviously, him growing older and learning routes and just developing as a wide receiver. But Bobby Trees, he impacted him. And I felt that Robert Woods can do the same to a very young wide receiver group for the Tennessee Titans. They're young. A.J. Brown is not old. Now, he's more of a veteran than he was a rookie, but there's a huge drop-off of experience. Even if you draft a wide receiver, the Titans wide receiver room is young. Julio Jones ain't here no more. Corey Davis is in New York counting his dollars and not playing games. This is a great deal for the Tennessee Titans. And the last thing I'll say is the fact that Bobby Trees wanted to come visit these trees in Nashville, Tennessee, that is the cherry on top.
Yeah, I think it's great. So our question here, is this a big deal, small deal, or no deal? Because, and why I lean Cooper Kupp's letter to Robert Woods that I just read, where he basically thanks Robert Woods and Bobby Trees for making the Rams what they are today. Basically said that Robert Woods helped the Rams win a Super Bowl, from top to bottom when it comes to on the field, off the field, and everything in between. So I think it's a big deal, Zach. I don't know, and this is the weird thing. You and I spent every week for 7 or 8 years, every week going to the Titans locker room, right? In the last couple of years, there hasn't been that access. So whenever you would go in the Titans locker room, you can tell who the leaders are. You can tell who the knuckleheads are. And you can tell if the leaders are okay with the knuckleheads being knuckleheads, or if the leaders want those knuckleheads to shut the hell up and work harder, right? And so you can tell how they feel if they're a 3-9 football team in December and they've already coasted it in, or if they're truly ready and believe and bought into this. I don't know what this locker room is the last couple of years. I believe it's good. I believe it's pretty strong, but Jarrell Casey's no longer there. Brian Orakpo's no longer there. No Delaney Walker, no Derek Morgan, no Wesley Woodyard. No, none of those guys who were staples of getting them out of the bottom of the NFL to a legitimate contender. So if Robert Woods can be another big respected leader on this offense, then I only think it's just going to get better and stronger. Robert Woods is not the type of C-patch who's going to come disrupt things. He's the type of C-patch that makes things better for his new team. And I'm truly excited to see what he can do and how he can help AJ, NWI, and some of these other receivers the Titans have.
Who got the offensive C-patches on the offense this year? Ryan Tannehill, obviously, right?
I think it's Derrick Henry and Ben Jones.
But they don't wear C-patches.
I'll look it up. Titans captains from this past year.
But they don't wear C-patches, or do they?
Yeah, they definitely do.
Tannehill's got to be it.
Oh, here it is. It's the offensive captains were Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, defensive captains Kevin Byard, Jeffrey Simmons, and then punter Brett Kern for special teams. So they have 5, 2 offense, 2 defense, 1 teams. And for a long time, Wesley Woodyard was that special teams captain.
But the Titans don't actually put C-patches on their uniform.
They absolutely do.
Derrick Henry did not have a C-patch.
Well, are you sure?
Yes. Derrick Henry's never had a C-patch on his uniform. This is a uniform aesthetic.
I'm on TennesseeTitans.com from Jim.
No, he may be a captain. He just doesn't wear a C-patch.
Okay, so they just
I'm talking about on the uniform, and that again, that's a trigger of who is who. That's why I asked the question. So it makes sense of what you said, and the reason why I asked that question to get to this is based on what you were talking about when we basically worked and lived in the locker room before COVID. The guys that rang true were the Delaney Walkers of the world, the Derek Morgans of the world, the Brian Orakpos, the Jarrell Caseys. Mm-hmm. Those guys and Ryan Tannehill, I think, exemplifies a leader, right? They follow 17. And where he can't throw 3 picks because they're going to follow him out of the playoffs, but they follow him. They follow Derrick Henry, and we've seen that rise of a leader within the locker room. I think adding a guy like Robert Woods is absolutely a big deal. He He is the best case scenario. I think they got the best case scenario out of their situation last week to now.
Yeah,
They
I
got
don't.
a
I mean,
seasoned veteran. Granted, he's coming off of an ACL, but he's well respected in the league, and now he's going to get opportunity that he wasn't going to get in LA because they have Allen Robinson now, right? So that's huge. Austin Hooper, he wasn't wanted by Cleveland. They released him for a reason. So they released him, and now he's on a one-year prove-it deal to an organization that he is excited about playing for. That's what he said in his press conference. This is a big deal on all sides that they had to go address two big-time positions on their offense to quote-unquote help Tannehill. That's what they said, and they did. Now, whether it will work out, that's in the eye of the beholder. We'll find that out in the fall. But this is a big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal. And Jarrell saying you don't skip over guys like AJ Brown. I'm sorry. No, we're not saying you don't like, but AJ is still young. AJ's not even 25 yet, is he? Like AJ's going into year 3, he is considered a veteran, but and AJ's personality is learn more. I want to learn more. Teach me things. Older veteran who's been in the league for 9 years already in Robert Woods. And so I think that's a good thing for AJ to have somebody there just because of the type of sponge that AJ Brown likes to be. But AJ's the number 1 wide receiver. Nothing's changing that as long as he stays healthy, and he's about to get ungodly amount of numbers.
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it because I believe it, and I say what I mean what I say. I do believe that, and this was the Mike Mularkey era, Taylor Lewan had earned the respect on the field of being that dude. Pro Bowls, I mean, left tackle Pro Bowl means something. And when Mike Mularkey took that captaincy away from him, he gave it to Dexter McCluster. I don't know if it was seniority or whatever, but maybe it was immaturity. I do think that said a lot. And I think it was unfortunate that Lewan had to go through the things that he did, but he did, right? With the PEDs and the ACL. And I think he's been trying to earn back that respect. I'm not saying he doesn't have any, but earn back that respect as the trajectory that he had when he had that captaincy patch. And then it was taken away from him. I think he's always been trying to earn that back within the locker room. I think he plays hard. I think he goes all in, but he doesn't exude the type of leadership from some of the guys that we've stated.
That's just not Lewan's personality, which is fine. Like you can't have all A-type personalities. Like things can't function that way. You have to have the guy who is the one who keeps keeps it light in there. If you just had guys who were type A's and all alphas and all captains' personalities, there's going to be some clashing. You need the Lewan to keep the mood lighter.
Absolutely. But there's levels of leadership, right?
Yeah.
And I think captains of football teams in the NFL, they have all of those levels. They don't have it on the surface. They don't have it in the locker room. They don't just have it on the field. They don't just have it outside in the community. They have it all. And I think this is going to be interesting. And I want to bring up a comment because I do agree. And it would be something if it doesn't happen. And it was about Ben Jones. And a commenter said, Ben Jones, it's Jarrell. Ben Jones should get it before Woods. I think Jarrell's absolutely right. Ben Jones has been there. He has the longevity. He's been there in the locker room. He's earned that respect. He's had the captain patch before. And I say figuratively because they're not physically on the jersey. But if Robert Woods comes in there and gets a captain, that tells me so much when a veteran goes to a new team and its first year, he becomes a captain. That is a wow factor to me because that tells me he has leadership on all of those levels I talked about. On field, off the field, in the locker room, everything.
Yeah, the Titans have a lot of guys on offense and defense who are worthy of captain's patches, but you can only give out 2 on either side or captaincies or whatever you want to call it.
The Titans don't have a lot of punks.
No, and they have it. And
they don't have Isaiah Wilson. He's gone, right? But they don't have the guys that are the Kenny Britts, the Pac-Man Jones, I mean,
Well,
and
and they
that's what
also
they
don't
are.
have a lot of the Justin Hunters either, who is a different kind of. He's not a troublemaking punk. He's just a guy who didn't care. They have guys who are bought in, the whole "do you love football" type of thing that is,
I'm
important.
talking about
But
like disruptors, right? Like the TOs of the world, the personalities that negatively impact your locker room instead of positively
well, and
impact your locker room.
well, they've been winning too. It's a lot easier to not disrupt things when you're winning and you're good. And also, like we mentioned, we haven't been in the locker room the last 2 years, so we don't know. We don't know what those personalities are like. But like
And
Darren,
Rashard
Darren
Matthews.
Bates, that Darren Bates and Taylor Lewan are disruptors, but they're not negative because of the team is in a healthy spot. If the team was 4-11 in December and Darren Bates is doing his thing and Lewan's doing his thing, then that becomes more annoying and tiresome because you've lost a lot of games. But
And
that's not how they are.
And Nate, I will say this: Ben Jones isn't a talker, apparently, though. Lawan can't even get him on busing with the boys. That is outside of football. Leadership, he calls at the line. He makes the adjustments. He helps Ryan Tannehill. That's why Austin was so adamant this offseason that the Titans should go re-sign Ben Jones, because that was important. He is a talker. He just doesn't like talking to the media.
Yeah, no,
Like,
Ben Jones is a character. Like Ben Jones
Hard
pies.
Knocks.
Yes, like Hard Knocks when he was with the Texans. And also think about this. It's what does he do? Ben Jones pies shaving cream pie in the face to every person in the Titans building on their birthday. Like he's a jokester. He plays all types of pranks on people. Watch him mimic Ryan Tannehill's finger roll after every Tannehill rushing touchdown. Ben Jones is a character guy. He just doesn't like talking to the media whatsoever.
And that's a different type, right? That's a
Yeah,
different type of loud. I mean, again, it's just different personality.
right. All right. A to Z Sports here live on this Wednesday. I think our shade is going to be pretty good today. Is that
Oh, I know it's going to be damn good. I mean, I put together a PowerPoint presentation on why Vanderbilt's logo has so many issues. They did so many things wrong without us even knowing that you're disappointed. So if you're a fan of Vandy, or if you're a fan of Tennessee, or if you just like talking about new logos like I do, you want to stay tuned to this Throwing Shade, because we are going to have a crash course on marketing to sports fans.
All right, but before I tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai, Zach.
I can do that. Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your ride. Free marketing right here at the bottom. Wilson County Hyundai, they are superb. They've thought it out, and they've thought it out with their Palisade, their Sonata. They also thought it out with their Elantra and their Santa Fe. They have the perfect make and model for you. You just have to find it, whether it's on WilsonCountyHyundai.com or it is in their brand new SUV, the Palisade. Third row seating is a full-size SUV. It is the perfect make and model for your family. You just got to go test drive it. Both Austin and I have test driven the Palisade. You need to do that. They've got electric cars like the Ioniq. Perfect make and model. I'm not joking around. Trusted brand in Hyundai, a even more trusted brand in Wilson County Hyundai.
Don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Use our code today, ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200. And you put a $10 moneyline wager on any NBA game tonight, and you get $200 when either team hits a three-pointer. It's basically a free way to get $200 to start your BetMGM account. So take advantage of that. That's with code ATOZ200. After you download the app, then you plug in your minimum deposit. A $10 moneyline wager wins automatically $200 when either team hits a three. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued if not withdrawable. Free bets or site credit. Free bets expire in 7 days. And for problem game support, call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789. Let's throw some shade. Time for throwing shade here on this Wednesday. So get your shade going in the chat. I'm going to start with my shade, Zach, because I want us to have plenty of time to end the show on your shade where I don't have to make it, down wet blanket after your great shade that's going to happen. So, and by the way, the Titans have officially made it official that the Robert Woods trade has gone through. So that has officially happened, and Robert Woods will speak to the media today at noon Central Time. So that will be very interesting to watch as well. So, Zach, my shade is about the iPhone and the inconsistency that I found with two iPhone features that makes no sense. And I think it needs to be fixed. And it's an easy fix. It has to do with the alarm settings and timer. Alarm and timer. I use both the alarm. I use the alarm every day, multiple times a day. I also use timers for things, whether I'm working or personal life or whatever it might be. But if you look at the way that the iPhone sets up the alarm and timer, it makes no sense, Zach. Here is what happens when your timer goes off and when your alarm goes off. When your timer goes off, stop is in yellow, repeat is at the bottom. But on the alarm, snooze is in yellow and stop is at the bottom. This is confusing to muscle memory. This has made me make mistakes several times with both the timer and the alarm. Snooze equals repeat. Stop equals stop. Why are they not in the same places? This drives me insane, Zach. Every time I do this, when I repeat my timer that I meant to stop, or I snooze my alarm that I meant to stop, I'm like, what the hell are you doing, Apple? It drives me crazy. There's no point to having them different. That is my shade today. I've been holding on to this for a while.
So that's pretty interesting because they're different features, but the yellow button is more likely to be pressed, right? You want to stop your timer, but you want to snooze your alarm.
Right.
You don't want to stop your alarm.
It frustrates me. It makes no sense. And people who are saying buy a Droid, dude, no, that's the incorrect way to think about this.
Yeah, don't do that.
It just needs to be consistent, right? It's like continue and stop. Continue and stop needs to be in the same places, because how many times do you have a timer alarm going and when it goes off, you're not looking at it. You just tap the area of whether it's the yellow button or the clear button at the bottom.
So they need to add a red button, and stop should be red, right? Because stop means stop. Red means stop.
Yes.
And green means go, and orange or yellow in this is kind of slow down. I need to snooze.
No, the colors can say the same. It's just flip one. Like, again, if you want to go off the alarm, because I'm guessing people use alarms more than they do timers. So snooze yellow, clear stop. That's fine. Just flip timer to have stop at the bottom and repeat at the top. Make it consistent with the alarm, because they're basically the same thing, right?
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair shade.
Thank you.
You don't want to get you in trouble, right? When you stop your alarm and now you've fallen asleep, you woke back up, right, 15, 20, 30 minutes later, and you're scrambling and your day has not started out well.
Yep. So there's
nothing worse than going to sleep nice and easy and then waking up and you've overslept, let's say, and now you're rushed. Like, now your day is rushed. And for us, we start our day early. We can't oversleep. I have done that once. Only once.
Yeah. And look, Jesse's saying the struggle is real for Austin and all the people who say there's a first world problem.
Oh my God. We live in a first world country.
But again, like shade, my shade is not always going to be on like the heaviest of topics. Or I think this is a very fair shade. This is something I have a problem with. So therefore I'm going to throw shade at it.
That is my forever shade for anybody who says first world problems. Yeah, because we live in a first world country. You have first world problems when you live in a first world country. I don't live in a third world country. I don't have those type of problems. I don't. I could go out. I could literally walk to a McDonald's and go get breakfast. That is not a third world problem.
Yep. Agree. All right.
So sorry about you.
So real quick, shade on myself for not mentioning the Titans restructured Kevin Byard's deal this morning. That saves them over $8 million in the cap this year. Kevin Byard has become a very rich man by having his contract restructured like 2 years in a row, where he's just got a lot of money in his pocket now. So that's good for the Titans and good for Kevin Byard. So I did want to mention that. I forgot to mention it off the top of the show.
All right, let's get to the comments before we get into marketing class and destroy Vandy. Jared says, this is interesting. I got some big shade. I was suspended from work for 3 days this morning. Wow. Insubordination. My boss called me after hours. Long story short, he said, "You do what I tell you to do." And I had to tell him about myself. So that's tough. I mean, insubordination basically is like defying authority. Hey, Jared, I'm with you there, bud. I'm insubordinate. I got a big problem with authority. Anybody tells me what to do, they better bring a gun like Danny Crotch Rocket, because I'm gonna bring mine. So, Jared, I wish you well. I hope you don't get fired because of this. I mean, not to ask personally of why this happened, but there had to have been something that happened that caused the insubordination claim,
Yeah.
But shade on your boss. Let's see here. Shade, throwing shade. Donald, as a Vandy fan, I'm throwing shade. The new logo is lazy, uninspired, and it looks like a ripoff. We'll get to that here very, very shortly. Zach says, I'm throwing shade at the refs of UTC Illinois game. UTC came so close to upset, and the refs made so many bad calls, like the goaltending call that didn't get called.
Yeah, that was rough for UTC. You lead the game for 49 and a half minutes, or for 39 and a half minutes, just to lose in the last 30. Yeah,
they didn't make their shot at the end, but
right.
I completely understand Zach Goodman. Honorable mention for shade should be Bart Scott for his crazy prediction of teams that will make the playoffs in the AFC. He doesn't have either the Chiefs nor the Titans making the playoffs, but has the Browns make it.
Look, I don't think at this point, I'm not going to blame anybody for having an AFC hot take, just because there's 7 spots in the playoffs and all 4 AFC West teams can make it. The Titans or Colts can make it. You can make an argument that all 4 AFC North teams can make it. So it's pretty crazy.
It is. Dion says, shade on the Colts for trying to reunite Julio and Matty Ice. Let Julio go to Tampa and join Brady and the Colts. Dion, I'm with you there, bud. I like that idea. Jesse Jones says, my shade is on his HOA. After 3 years, new home, they decided I need to rip my $8,000 fence down and apply to put it up, and they're going to put a lien on their house. That's tough scene right there, Jesse.
Yeah.
I'm going opposite of Jarrell. I don't disagree with the shade, but shade on public bathroom sinks that only have cold water. Actually, I go opposite. Shade on public bathroom sinks that only have hot water if you're hot. There's nothing worse than being hot and then going to a public restroom and washing your hands. Like, if it's the summertime and you're at a bar and then you go in there and you wash your hands and it's hot water to make you even more hot.
Hot water obviously kills bacteria more, but there's something so refreshing about washing your hands in cold water after being warm. Yes.
Steven says, shade on people who leave their dogs in beds of their trucks when they drive. They deserve to be inside.
Amen. That's dangerous.
I just don't understand. And this is a complex I have. I have such an inside dog, like the most inside dog of the inside dogs. He loves blankets. He loves being under the covers. He loves toys. Like, he loves comfort. I don't understand how you can have an outside dog.
Well, one, you should never have a 100% outside dog.
People have outside dogs all the time.
That's my point is you should not have outside dogs. They should be able to come inside. Do dogs need to be outside half parts time? Yes. But you should never have outside dogs. If you still have a 100% outside dog, you're doing it wrong and you're putting that dog through a bad life. Just saying.
There you go. Orlando, we got 2 more shades and then we'll get to mine. Orlando, shade on public restrooms that have auto sinks. Those are also tough because if they don't work, you're out of luck, right? And lastly, this leads into my shade. We'll throw shade on Tennessee before we showed shade on Vandy. Fair is fair,
Still
right?
mad.
Shade
Still
on
mad.
Rick Barnes for consistently losing in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament.
So mad. So angry. Speaking of dogs, I unfortunately had to admit this. I was so mad at the end of that Tennessee game against Michigan on Saturday that I made my dogs nervous. And I had to go to the different room to watch it on a different TV because I was so frustrated at that team just collapsing like that. Ridiculous.
All right, let's get to Vanderbilt. So
Yes.
here is my shade. Vanderbilt. What have you done? You have not paid attention to the people that pay your bills. Right here, Vanderbilt University has unveiled a complete rebranding for both school and all of its athletic programs. Vandy decided to look over the past 2 years with a Boston-based firm. Upstatement. This kind of tells us where the problem started. Vanderbilt, and let's look at logos. I am I would say, expert of logos. I'm going to put myself in that category. I pride myself on that category. I know logos on logos on logos. The problem with what Vanderbilt did, Austin, I'm going to kind of walk us all through this. What really truly represents Vanderbilt's logo, in your opinion?
The star. I mean, there's two things. It's the V and the star.
Bingo bango. The star first catches your eye. The V is secondary. Star one, V secondary. That is how Vanderbilt fans resonate with their logo, with their university, with their athletic programs. Well, Vandy decided to scrap that and get ego because of this Boston-based marketing team that has probably never even been to Vanderbilt. You'd hope over 2 years that they visited the school, but they have not gotten to know the Vanderbilt fan base, because if they did, they would know that the star is first and the V is second. And the reason why the star is unique, V's are not unique. We'll get to that here in a second. V's are not unique. The V that Vanderbilt has right there at the bottom right corner of your screen looks exactly like Villanova's V, which also looks closely like Virginia's V. And the reason why you can only have so many forms of V's, but look at the bottom right corner. You see that little U, that the middle part of the V. Look at Vanderbilt's middle part of the V. Look at Villanova's middle part of the V. And look at Virginia's middle part of the V. They look the same. They are not disruptive in this market. So it doesn't separate your brand. You need to separate your brand. What separates Vanderbilt brand is the star. So what did they do? They made a secondary logo that will be on choice memorabilia and some athletics. They did throw a star, but they got it ass backwards. They put the star in the back. They didn't put the star in the front.
You know what this looks like? This looks like a, and this is no disrespect to what I'm about to say, but it looks like a travel cheerleading squad logo.
I don't disagree
like,
with you.
Like a youth travel cheerleading squad logo. That's what that looks like.
So this is where you got it wrong, Vanderbilt. You took the one thing that represents your fan base, the star, and you shoved it in the back of the room. For that, Xavier wins and you get an L. And now that L is going to be used far and wide.
Oh my God.
Consistently. And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the backlash of Kentucky redoing their logo with the two pigeons having sex. You remember that?
No, actually, I do not.
Oh my gosh. Now I have to, I just thought of it. That's why I didn't pull it.
I do not remember the two pigeons. That's hilarious. But
you do not remember the two
no,
pigeons?
I don't. But I do find it so hilarious that Vanderbilt, who is a losing university outside of two sports that don't make money anywhere else besides Vanderbilt, that you can easily switch their logo into an L. Like it's just so funny and perfect. Exactly, it's perfect.
Right. And how many times after they lose, which they lose quite a bit in
Every
sports, is
time.
this going to happen?
Every time. Every time. They screwed it up.
This is going to be their crying Jordan meme.
Yes.
That's scary. Like,
yes.
that's bad.
Now, as you look for the Kentucky Pigeons logo, Sean says,
I have it. It's loaded.
Okay, real quick. Sean says props to them for not using an anchor, though. That's true because anchor down means nothing. Anchor down is stupid. It's an oxymoron. You don't want to have your anchor down at the bottom of the SEC. You want to go anchors up, let's ride and get better, not anchoring down in the sucky part of the SEC.
But you don't know the history of why you obviously don't know the history of why anchor down is with Vanderbilt, right? That was the whole premise of why they did that. It is to Vanderbilt. We've gone over this before. The history of anchor down. We've literally had like shows about anchor down, and it has to do with, I believe, the naval
because they're the Commodores. They have ships, yes, but anchor down is not anchors. Anchors stop you from moving. So that is not the optics that Vanderbilt needs because they are moving backwards with their anchors down.
Anchor symbolizes unity and strength throughout the program. That is one of the reasons why Vanderbilt does.
I know their reasons, but again, I don't.
Well, hey, at least it's not two pigeons, two birds doing it, like the Kentucky released logo. You see them?
I do.
Two beaks looking at each other inside of each other.
Yeah,
you see that?
I do remember that, which does not look anything like a wildcat as well.
That, my friend, is a tough scene. I actually like Vanderbilt's logo right here better than this logo.
Agree, because I don't know what that is. That could be like Laverne High School for all I know.
So you got a cheerleading squad, travel all-stars, and then you've got, high school.
Yep.
And you're collegiate. Vanderbilt got their ego in the way, and they do this too often. They tried to say the V stands for Vanderbilt, strong, but it's the star. It's the star. I mean, how many colleges have the star? I mean, I really can't even think of one that has a prominent star like Vanderbilt does. Can you?
No.
Can the chat? I don't know. And Jebu says, I can't unsee the two birds fornicating. I saw a big jacked up truck. This made me laugh. A big old jacked up truck, big wheels, diesel. And it had this as a license plate right in the front. And I just started dying laughing. And I was like, bro, do you not realize that you were just like two mating birds? That's all you're just repping?
Yeah.
So that is my PowerPoint presentation on logos. Vanderbilt, you screwed up. Star greater than V. That concludes this session.
And don't allow your V to be easily made into an L. Tough scene for Vandy. Hey, great end of their basketball season, though. Got to give a lot of credit to Jerry Stackhouse and Scottie Pippen Jr. and the rest of that team that made that way, kind of turn that thing around.
Well, if they would have turned around even more if they would have hit their free throws last night.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys on a Thursday morning. Don't forget A to Z Sports Primetime tonight with Buck Rising. Robert Woods is speaking to the Titans media today at noon, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning reacting to whatever happens in the world of Nashville and Tennessee sports. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.